make sure to give my dad a 5-star review.
Make sure to like and subscribe to his YouTube. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome back, faithful politics listeners and watchers. I am your political host, Wright, and I'm joined by your faithful host, Pastor Josh Burtram. How's it going, Josh?
Well, doing fine. Thank you.
Hey, and we're going to try to keep up with our regular POV episode. So there are no guests today, and we wanted to try to start incorporating these POV episodes just to give you all a sense of who we are. You spend most of your time looking at us interviewing people, and you probably don't have, a good understanding of our perspectives and whatnot. So Josh and I thought it'd be a good idea for us just to have an episode where it's just Josh and I talking with each other about topics of the day, of the week, or what have you. So I hope you tune in. It'll be its own playlist in YouTube. And I think that's it. Am I missing anything, Josh?
No, I don't think so. Well, I think you're good to go on that.
Yeah. So we are recording this post-election, post-inauguration.
Yep.
Trump has been in the White House for about a week. Yeah.
He's been busy.
Yeah. He's been busy. He's been cashing those MAGA checks. And, it's caused a lot of like I don't know, dismay, excitement, happiness. I don't know. What are your first impressions of Trump's first week back?
Well, I think that he is trying to get running as soon as he hits the ground, kind of thing. It's been he hasn't disappointed in terms of creating controversy and creating a whole lot of headlines. So It's back to the fun days of the Trump headlines, Will. The days you've been missing, where you would hear headlines and there'd always be some entertainment that you look at in the news.
That is true. I will tell you that this second time around, I think I've become a much more nuanced, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I'm not freaking out about all the Trump stuff. I still probably could be diagnosed with TDS. But it's like I've embraced the derangement.
Trump derangement syndrome, dude.
Yeah, so I'm not too upset about folks saying I've got TDS, but a much more tapered approach to this go around, because you can really just spin your wheels and react to like every single thing that Trump does, and it will drive you up the wall. So I have a routine now that at a certain time of the night, I have an iPhone, and you can set it. You know how you can set it from like a work setting or personal setting and whatnot, and really encourage everybody to do that, especially for work. You got to have that work-life balance, but there's like a political setting where I won't get any notifications from Twitter or Facebook or any of the, well, Facebook I'll get, but I won't get it from like Twitter, Blue Sky, or any of the other places that Faithful Politics is at. And just basically do like a media blackout right before bed every night. So,
is that like 10 minutes before bed, dude? Or like
it's like
30 minutes?
20 minutes after bed, basically.
20 minutes after you've been laying there, anxious, dude, and you're like, finally, like, okay, I need to turn these notifications off.
Yeah. Well, here's the weird part. I think, we just had Biden leave the White House. And Biden is like, I don't want to say it's like the most disgraceful administration of my lifetime, but it's up there. Especially with regard to the way that he did the peace I'm out pardons. And just like a bunch of, the things he was saying about Trump on the campaign trail when he was campaigning, and the things that Harris picked up afterwards were all true. And if you're going to accuse your opponent of being the future dictator, like, you would think you would fight a lot harder. You would have gotten out of the race a lot sooner. And you wouldn't, be doing tea with him like on the day of the inauguration. Like, you would you would basically distance yourself from him because like you think he's a dictator. And I'll just one more gripe about Biden. He campaigned on the fact that Trump was a threat to the country. He said after what happened in Charlottesville, it motivated him to run for president. The whole DNC establishment was like, fine, it's your time now. But like, you want to know how many trips he's taken to Charlottesville? Like zero. And that was the thing he said he got into the race for. So anyway.
Come on, Biden.
Come on, man.
Come on the show, Biden. Come on and explain your actions, sir.
Yeah.
Dude, so we've had a lot going on, though, dude. We got executive orders. We got Trump rescinding which that doesn't seem like a surprise, right? Doesn't every president basically do that? They're like, yeah. But what I would love, dude, to ask you about, because we've kind of texting back and forth, is this presidential pardon of the J6ers, right? 1,500 people. So what do you know about that? Who are, is it, like the 1,500 people, does it include just a bunch of like a blanket charge that a bunch of people got for going into the Capitol? Is it like super violent criminals? Is it like, what does it really mean? And even like thinking about like the precedent, is this different than other presidents have done in the past, or is it kind of similar? What do you think? Just thoughts off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say before I can talk about those pardons, I would be doing the show no benefit by at least addressing the pardons that Biden gave before he left.
Yes, please.
I mean, number one, he pardoned his son. That was like the first one that he pardoned after years of saying I would never pardon, Hunter, and heavily critiqued Trump. As Trump provided pardons to like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort and those cast of characters, and I don't agree with the major Democrat establishment when they're like, well, what would you do as a father? You already lost like two, of your kids. Like, are you going to let your other one just sit there in jail? And I get the sympathy argument, but I'm not sympathetic because Biden, he could have avoided all of this by not running. So if he really had his family's idea in mind, he wouldn't have ran. Case closed. No worries. Probably would have been better for the country. Who knows? Yeah. And then, the day of the inauguration, he pardoned a bunch of his family members, like his brother and his brother's wife, or I forget that the list of those he pardoned expanded. I can't actually. What's funny though is I can't remember if he gave Joe Biden a pardon.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah, and the reason he did that was because he was like, yeah, I just thought that, this president that I literally had tea with this morning. That's like a presidential inauguration tradition or whatever.
Gotcha. To have tea.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very American.
No, he essentially said that he was afraid of, persecution from the incoming administration, which is kind of a farce because his brother, number one, is his pardon for all crimes, was completely unrelated. He actually had a crime on the books that had to be pardoned, but it had nothing to do with anything. So, and then finally on the Biden thing, he pardoned the members of the January 6th committee, to include Mark Milley, Fauci, some others, which seems really dumb because one, Congress members are protected by the speech and debate clause. So, if he's got a problem with that, he can talk to the Constitution. But just doing that just seems like, I don't know, I'm really just bothered by it. So then Trump comes in and first thing he does is start doing a bunch of pardons. And he said it on the campaign trail. Yep, J6 people are hostages and, they're being treated badly. And yeah, I'm going to pardon all of them. And, some people are just like, yeah, he'll never do that. And even Congress members, when asked about it, they're like, well, some have been treated badly, which is true, but he won't pardon the violent folks. So, he, with the stroke of a pen, He pardons basically everybody. There's about 10 of them whose sentences he commuted. He didn't give them like a full pardon. So like a full pardon is like the crime never existed. A commutation, there's a difference, but he clearly identified a set of people that he thought should be set aside and unique from the others. Those 10 includes folks like the leader of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, like Enrico Tarrio, leader of the Proud Boys, a couple others. But, out of that 1,600, I heard this really great analysis by Andy McCarthy, he writes for a National Review, used to be a lawyer, Southern District of New York, and very, very like right wing. Wrote a book about Russian collusion. Anyways, he was unpacking some of these like pardons that were given, and I agree with him. He basically said out of the 1,600, there's probably 1,000, or less people that just got caught up in the moment, were actually waved on by police, and wrong place, wrong time. But FBI doesn't do misdemeanors. So that's why they're all, basically got felony convictions. So those folks, pardon, sure. Yeah, I'm all for it, But there was like a smaller group that was also pardoned. One guy by the name of Daniel Rodriguez. I was just reading about his case today.
That was the name of one of my good friends earlier.
He basically like took like a flagpole, hit one of the Capitol Police officers. Like there's a photo that you've probably seen where it's like an individual is laying sort of like on the ground in the middle of the mob, and they're just like beating on him. That guy's Michael Fanone, and after they beat him, they tased him in the neck a bunch of times, caused him to have a heart attack.
Jeez.
Like in the middle of this thing. And they just did all kinds of other stuff to him until he was able to be rescued. And that's just one. There's another person that was pardoned that, was coordinating a stockpile of guns just right outside DC. So for these folks, like, what's the message we're sending to them? We're sending the message that, yeah, like you can commit crimes on behalf of the president and, not worry about there being much penalty. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And just seeing how, these kinds of presidential pardons work, I was looking up some of it. And just kind of seeing Jimmy Carter on his first day issued a blanket pardon to an estimated 200,000 Vietnam War draft evaders. Mm-hmm. He viewed it as an act of national healing after the divisive Vietnam War, which is kind of what Trump said, right? It's like it's an act of national healing. Isn't that kind of the language and the rhetoric that was used?
No, I think he was essentially saying these folks have been mistreated and are hostages, and all they wanted to do was just show their support for a president that had an election stolen from him.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so
I think you said that recently, just on like a Sean Hannity interview.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know where I got that from. It's all right. I mean, so you have that. You have, Andrew Johnson, 1965, broad amnesty to the Confederate soldiers, which, that's like this huge thing. I'm just trying to think like what kind of things have happened in the past. Gerald Ford, but that's not that big. Some like
it's
Nixon.
Funny, like if a bunch of Confederate soldiers got pardoned, I mean, if you think about it in your own heritage, like where would you be?
Where would I be without Andrew Johnson?
Is it Johnson?
President
or
Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson. Maybe is it Jackson? Let's see here. Why am I seeing Johnson, dude?
I don't know. If it's Wikipedia, I'm sure it's 150% correct.
Andrew Johnson, dude, 17th president of the United States, 1865 to 69. As vice president in 1865, succeeded the presidency upon the assassination of President Lincoln. So Johnson, Andrew Johnson, dude. You can believe it.
There you go. This is why we have experts on the show.
This is why we have experts, dude. Wikipedia, the internet, the interwebs, dude. Absolutely. And thinking about so Barack Obama, dude, can you guess how many people he pardoned from, do you remember?
In his two terms?
Yeah. 2009 to 2017.
Yeah, probably 100,000.
No, dude. 1,527.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not very many.
It says, I don't know why, it says the largest number in modern history, focusing primarily on nonviolent drug offenders. So you have these kind of things, and then Trump, gave 238 in this previous one, right? And now he just blew that one out of the water on day one, dude.
Well, I mean, it's like the pardon stuff. I think it's more quality than quantity, and even in Biden's pardons, because I think he pardoned or commuted the sentences of a bunch of non-violent drug offenders, like a ton of people. And in so doing, he pardoned some person that was like part of this gang that used to torture women, throw like hot water in their hoo-has, and just a real bad person. But the reason that person kind of made it through the cracks is because like they didn't follow the normal and customary procedure of there is a process, that involves people reviewing. I think it's like the deputy DOJ person, and and then they bring those things to the president. So yeah, it's pretty wild, but
it is wild.
Just to pick your brain, since we haven't really talked all week. So have you seen the video of that bishop in DC?
I did. I watched it at the prayer breakfast.
It was
prayer, some kind of,
some sort of like it's the bishop that basically asked Trump to show mercy.
Yes. Yeah, was there. Yeah, I mean, I thought that. I thought everything that she said when I was listening was. I didn't have any issues with any of it that I was hearing, and then she just asked him to show mercy, which again, nothing is. I thought it was super powerful, what she was saying, talking about the witness and loving our enemies. And it's tough because, it's a weird thing with when you're in a job like the presidency, or you're in a job like in this place where you have to make these decisions that are going to cause, they're not simple decisions, although it seems like, someone just making a blanket pardon of all these people seems like that's a fairly, I don't know. Again, I don't know how easy it is to do that. And so it just feels like there's all these kinds of tensions and contradictions that are next to each other that are put up here. And it's just American politics. So, I mean, I appreciated what she said. I thought she was bold, to say what she did. I mean, I'm not surprised that Trump, didn't like what she said. And, it seems like anything that offers any kind of criticism of his actions is normally met with a lot of resistance and vitriol and all that. So I'm really not surprised by Trump's reactions. And I thought, I was trying to imagine, like, if I was in her situation, what would I do? I had this chance to get up and make this very public statement, prayer, sermon, any of that. Like, what would I say if I felt a lot of deep conviction about something? I thought, I definitely applaud using that platform to take a chance. I didn't think it was really controversial what she said. I did think it was interesting. She kind of conflated two groups, undocumented workers and immigrants. And I don't know, when I was listening to her, she kind of conflated those two groups.
Wait, are you talking about undocumented immigrants and LGBTQ?
No. There's a time in which she was talking about, basically she said most immigrants in this country pay taxes, law abiding. And again, I'm not arguing with any of that. I'm not saying that what she said isn't true at all. It was interesting because this is about finding like people that have entered the country illegally and are here illegally. And that's different to me than immigrants, right? Immigrants is anyone who's come to the country, right, from another country, immigrated from another country. And I would see immigrants as kind of a larger umbrella, and undocumented, illegal people here illegally as a subset of that. And she kind of rolled them together, which again, I'm not saying that undocumented immigrants don't pay tax. I mean, I guess they couldn't pay income tax. They could pay what? I guess, sales taxes like anyone else, right? They're buying things. So it's going to be, so in that sense, they're going to pay taxes. So I just noticed a little bit of a sleight of hand, a little bit of ambiguity there, where it's like, hey, here's this. It's almost painting like, hey, Trump hates immigrants. Now, again, I know a lot of people have a lot of different views on that. And I don't really have like a personal view to give on that right now. I've given a lot of my views on, on our show. And I think people know I'm certainly not a MAGA person. I'm not like all about Trump, and certainly have a lot of my own criticisms. But I do think there's a pretty profound difference between an effort to remove people that have come into the country illegally versus, immigrants at large within the country, and like basing all of your views, not all, that's not, but putting too much of your views on how Trump sees immigrants based on this policy. There's other issues that you could look at, I'm sure, or make a cumulative case, which many people, right, are doing and have followed Trump and heard the things he said and have their reasons for thinking, that he has animosity towards immigrants. But I don't know if this particular case is as much of evidence of that as maybe sometimes it's presented as. I don't know if that makes sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I'm actually kind of surprised, like your first take of that bishop's message, because, and mind you, just for those listening or watching, like Josh and I haven't texted or talked at all about
no.
this particular thing, because I was really curious, because the response from both political sides have just been ridiculous. I mean, on the right, they're freaking out because, this bishop preached the gospel, and the left is like, having this person on TV. I think she made like an MSNBC appearance and was on the View or something like that, So, I mean, but that's a whole other thing. Like, so it's like, she's sort of being hailed as whatever, at least some champion of justice, which is ironic because, I mean, she's really just trying to champion like Jesus's justice. And right. And it would be cool if people like saw her message, was like, hey, you know what? Like, maybe I will go try to, connect with a church this weekend. That would be cool. There's some hip young, church that just popped up, and yeah. So that could be an opportunity, but like, my personal take on it, while I agree, I think that her message was pretty short, kind of boring, but I don't like the execution, like the fact that you're in this cathedral or whatever, and you single-handedly point out the president and make those statements. And mind you, like, I don't know if that's just something she says in all of her sermons to all the presidents, but my guess is probably not. So,
yeah, same here.
So it's almost like, if you really wanted for him to get that message and you understand who the person is, this Trump, he doesn't like to be embarrassed. I mean, heck, that's the only reason he ran, because Trump basically was telling everybody that Obama wasn't born in the country. So like, he doesn't like being made fun of.
Right. So,
as a bishop, like, you have to have other tools in the tool bag to, get that message to him if you really wanted that message to get to him. So Because I'm thinking like if you're preaching and then all of a sudden you're just like, let's talk about sin and,
Will, I'd like to talk to you about some sin here
and Will,
that you've been committing.
Is that, that thing you've been doing that you told me not to tell everybody, but guess what? I'm going to tell everybody. So like it just, I mean, like the message, was probably necessary, but the execution of the message, I just had some issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear that. I mean, I remember when she said, "And Mr. Trump," and I was like, whoa, I literally said that out loud. I mean, yeah, I mean, you normally don't make it a practice as a preacher to point specific individuals out while you're preaching. Like for like some kind of like, or some kind of, implication that, with the implication that he's not merciful, that he's not being merciful. Now, again, all of that can be argued. So I think she was bold. I agree that the execution was a little bit weird. Certainly, it was very intentional, right, to do that. So it's like, it's not like a faux pas or like, oh, shoot, I went off script there. Mm-hmm. It's like, that was very intentional. So, I think that she spoke, she didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do anything unethical. She did maybe uncomfortable, maybe, I don't know. She spoke from her heart. But again, I think that whenever we get into these political things, we conflate ideas so much. Again, and I just noticed the immigrant undocumented worker thing, right? We vary, and maybe that wasn't intentional, but like when you put these two things together, when you take it's like a way to try to get a message in, slide it in under in a very subtle way.
Wait, are you talking about like when people combine the term undocumented immigrant?
Yeah, I'm just saying when she actually did it. Like, so she said there are many immigrants in this country that pay taxes and so maybe she meant to say undocumented workers or illegal, but that's not what she said. She said immigrants. And so that to me, and again, I don't need to harp on this, and I know, but it is something that I noticed and I thought about. And I thought, well, I mean, that's not really correct. And that's a little bit like, it feels like shifting the field a little bit and saying, oh yeah, well, Trump, he's attacking like with the implication, hey, there's plenty of immigrants that are doing great things, which definitely true. And I think we should be very open and wanting to get immigrants into our country. It's part of what's made our country so great. In my thinking. But looking at that, and then the implication is like, hey, Trump, you don't like immigrants. When it's really, this has been focused on a specific subset of immigrants, those who have come in illegally. And then even, I don't know like the ins and outs of this deportation plan. And so how do they find out people? How do they find them? What's the process like? Is everyone treated the same? I don't know. Is he just coming after those who have had criminal records or violent criminals? And is it more? Well, I think ultimately it's more. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say a lot of it is, they just know where they are. I mean, number one, Greg Abbott flew like, I don't know how many thousands to Chicago. So they know that they're there. They also know like that they are being protected in some churches as well. But the Trump administration, for all their, church, state, whatever, religious liberty, have come out and basically said like, you're not safe in churches. Like, we'll go in churches and grab people.
Like they'll bust down church walls with like and tear gas the place, or they'll like come in like, hey, pastor, we need to get in there. Mm-hmm. And maybe it is like, I don't know, it's weird, man. It's a weird place to be.
It is. I mean, and, we're going to have somebody on, hopefully in the next couple of weeks to talk about the birthright citizenship stuff with
Right.
It's like with all the stuff. I mean, number one, like don't get me started on executive orders because I think it's a terrible way to run a country. But Trump signed an executive order basically trying to abolish birthright citizenship, and it's pretty bold. It'll get challenged and most likely get shot down even in this Supreme Court.
There's a bunch that already sued him, right? I mean, like I don't know, over a dozen states already brought suit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be an interesting debate for sure. Like I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will shoot it down because if not, it's going to, it's really going to change things, which is weird. I mean, like, so when you think about birthright citizenship, it is kind of weird in the context of we're one of the only countries that actually has that,
If you're born here, you're a citizen.
So, I mean, it is an interesting like question to ponder. I mean, I'm a progressive, so obviously I'm more on the side of, hey, like if you want to come here, you can come here. Like let's all enjoy. But yeah, it's not very popular on many on the right.
Yeah.
But I want to just talk about one more thing. Then we can kind of close out. But I don't know, with everything going on in the world and in the country and with politics, like what are some tips or technique that you would recommend or that you're doing? I already kind of talked a little bit about some of the stuff I'm doing, but I'd be curious to see what routines you have.
Yeah, man. Well, I know one thing is that I take a full day off every week. Try to do that, and really separate myself from work and separate myself from all the different, which includes, all the different news, and I do think one of the best things that anyone can do for their mental health is to stop listening to the news for at least a little bit, to get off like social media, to get off the devices, and give yourself a little bit of time to just let your brain rest from being constantly stimulated and warned. Imminent danger, thing happening. Basically every headline is designed to make you want to watch it or listen or whatever. It's just like any of these. It's just like any video. We just live in this constant state of everyone trying to get our attention because they want our views, our likes, our subscriptions, which by the way, you should like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. But they want that, right? And it makes sense. And we have so much, you need to grab people's attention, but that kind of creates an incentive structure where you're going to try to get that amygdala going as quickly as possible because you want to get a response. You want to get someone doing something. Whether that's liking, subscribing, giving, watching, reading, whatever. And so what ends up happening is that we're just constantly bombarded with these things that are setting off our reptile brain or whatever you want to call it, just setting hey, danger, 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 Will Robinson. This thing's happening in Ukraine. This thing's happening in Syria. This thing's happening all across the world. This thing's happening in California. And again, like being connected is beautiful in one sense, but also it's like we're connected, but also deeply disconnected at the same time. It's like this superficial connection to all this stuff. And again, this is the world we live in. So I'm not suggesting to become a hermit or to completely remove yourself. But I do think at some level, man, it's like, hey, your mental health is super important. It has to be guarded. No one else is going to guard it for you. No one else is going to do that. So you have to take responsibility and ownership. And I think that includes having the discipline to turn things off and not watch and not, read the next article or whatever it is. I think to really, give yourself a break.
I think that's so like insightful because like when you're talking, I was thinking to myself, like the stuff that attracts you about the news is all the same things that like you learn in podcast school. I mean, there's no podcast school, but like, like you talk to people and like there's a whole thing you're supposed to do, that make the pic, like the YouTube thumbnail. You probably, if you're watching us on YouTube, it looks different. Why? Because some smart person told us that, hey, if you want more views, you got to do this. And we're like, yes, we would like more views. So we did that. And the same thing with like words and maximizing them for SEO and, making sure you got titles and hashtags. Like it's all designed to reach out. But because algorithms really kind of reward, controversy, shows like ours, like don't really make it to the top or make it in your feed. So if you actually like came across our show because it showed up in your feed, good on you. You're probably a good person. Because like the stuff you're watching said, hey, here's a good person. Here's some more like good stuff.
Our AI overlords approve of you and your personality.
So, and I'll just remind folks that we have a Substack, and I wrote something been on my heart for a long time, but it's called Staying Grounded, 10 Rules for Engaging in Politics Without Losing Your Mind.
It's very good.
Which, by the way, made it into the Christian Ethics.
Come on, somebody.
So take that.
You're a published ethicist. Did you ever think that would happen?
Look at that. Never, not in this lifetime. But I'm just going to read just the 10 rules, and I'll put the link to the Substack in the. So number one, so these are 10 rules to enjoy politics. Number one, don't defend politicians as if they're beyond criticism. Number two, accept that you can't be an expert on everything. 3, don't let the media decide what matters most to you. 4, let go of outrage over hypocrisy. 5, think of political parties as tools, not identities. 6, read source documents when possible. 7, be open to changing your mind. 8, seek out different perspectives. 9, ask who benefits. 10, don't assume you know why someone voted the way they did. So
nice.
Check it out.
I love that.
Yeah, check it out. I'll put it in the show notes. And thanks again, everybody, for stopping by and just watching us too. Don't forget, we do have a merch store. All of the proceeds from the merch will help fund the show. Most of the artwork is done by myself. So reach out, buy some stuff, help us out, like, subscribe. We should try to change those algorithms, but we're only going to be able to do it.
Dude.
So any parting words, Josh?
Thank you for watching
and
listening.
Yes. And keep your conversations not up or down, but left. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey there, Josh Burtram here, faithful host of the Faithful Politics Podcast. I want to let you know about a compelling new spinoff, the Faith Roundtable, where I'll be interviewing top faith leaders, theologians, and scholars to unpack the pressing issues that are shaping the church in America today. We'll dive into topics like faith in public life, social justice, and how we can engage our communities more effectively. Make sure you don't miss any of our enlightening conversations by subscribing to it on our YouTube channel. Join me at the Faith Roundtable, where deep discussion meets thoughtful insight.